The saga involving the Boeing 737-9 has taken yet another twist, with the Federal Aviation Administration announcing it is now formally investigating Boeing. Not for the first time, the FAA has said that an accident such as that of what occurred on the 737-9 should not have happened. You may notice I'm referring what happened as an accident rather than an incident. This is actually coming directly from Boeing and the NTSB, who have changed their terminology. As a result, the overall investigation is being taken to the next level. The FAA published a new statement that indicates they'll formally begin an investigation into the American plane maker, saying that they've also notified Boeing this is what will occur. As part of the new formal investigation, the Federal Aviation Administration will determine whether Boeing failed to ensure that completed products conform to their approved design. Additionally, a focus will be placed on understanding whether the aircraft were in a safe condition that saw them in compliance, like I said, with the regulations laid out by the FAA. The governing body says that as part of the letter identifying an investigation will begin, the circumstances do indicate that Boeing may being probably the most crucial word here, have failed to ensure its completed products were up to standard for safe operation. It doesn't determine that's the case, it says may. To conclude the letter, the FAA say that they would appreciate receiving any evidence or statements that Boeing would like to make within 10 business days. Why an investigation? Well, the FAA says they're launching such a thing as a direct response to the Boeing 737-9 accident that lost a plug-type passenger door. While this definitely was the initial focal point for investigations and talk, when further loose bolts were identified following technicians conducting preliminary investigations on their parked aircraft, a lot changed. As a result, the FAA mentions additional discrepancies. These discrepancies likely relate to what has since followed from the initial grounding, highlighting what can only appear to be a pretty big problem that you'd argue has been brewing for some time involving the plane maker. Ultimately, the FAA must ensure that all aircraft comply with the rigorous safety standards outlined, and an investigation will dig deeper into the manufacturing practices at Boeing that have come under fire. Such safety standards are ones that the American plane maker is legally accountable to meet. If they do not meet these, the repercussions will be severe. However, most of all, it just damages the brand, which you'd argue brand damage is something it really can't sustain more of. In yesterday's update, I reiterated that the investigation and now a lot of the focal point is on Boeing, not the MAX. While yes, the accident was in relation to an Alaska Airlines 737-9 MAX, there's more concern over Boeing than the series. Unlike the incidents of the late 2010s, which yes, also identified critical internal issues, the direct problem was really related to the MAX. The focus of the investigations in this case have centered around quality, and what Boeing describes as a quality escape. A quality escape can happen on any aircraft type. It could be the Airbus A220, the A350, the 737 MAX, or the upcoming 777X. These quality escapes identify the continued failures to adhere to high safety standards and quality control that ensure that these things do not slip through. An investigation being carried out by the FAA is receiving praise from onlookers, as the regulator notes that time will be required. For quite an extended period, especially regarding the MAX program, the idea was speed could increase profits and efficiency. However, with speed, as we know, cracks slip through that can later come back to bite. One of the most basic analogies I've always provided is think of it as homework, something no doubt we've all done at one point in our life. If you rush it, mistakes will slip through and you'll receive a poorer grade. But if you take your time, theoretically speaking, while you might not necessarily get an A+, your grade should be better, as mistakes that would have slipped through from rushing won't be present. There is no timeline for when the 737-9 will return with Airlines being impacted. The NTSB and FAA says they will take as much time as required to ensure that when the plane re-enters service, it is safe to do so. Additionally, a critical focus, like I mentioned, will be placed on the practices undertaken at Boeing, and whether internally the way they build their aircraft needs to change, as as quality escapes become a more common occurrence, which is something we want to be avoiding. The NTSB says the Alaska Airlines accident remains their primary focus, but they won't be afraid in the future, if necessary, to launch other investigations into the portfolio of aircraft, but they'll need a reason to do this. Again, I would love to hear your take on the FAA investigating Boeing specifically and their production practices. Do you believe the investigation will bring anything to light? Let me know. Thanks again. I'll see you tomorrow.
And we'll fly.